Hey, welcome to the Phil Garris Show. Glad you can make it today. Today's show is going to be about Equifax and how they've screwed over half Americans by their data breach and how they steal your personal information and social security number and make a profit by it. But first, I'd like to talk about Donald Trump's racial slur. As most of you know, he had a group of Navajo code talkers in the White House supposedly to honor them. However, he had them standing in front of a painting of Andrew Jackson. And I don't know if a lot of you know this, but Andrew Jackson was responsible for the Indian Removal Act, which ended up in the deaths of about 20,000 American Indians and forcibly removed them from their own land and forced them onto reservations. But it gets much worse than that. Donald Trump could not resist making a comment about Elizabeth Warren, calling her Pocahontas. So in front of these great American code talkers who risked their life for the United States, and a lot of them lost their life for the United States during World War II, Donald Trump insults them by having them stand in front of a painting of Andrew Jackson and then makes a racial slur about Pocahontas. My God, what is wrong with this man? These poor American Indians, I'm sorry you had to put up with this. Well, we're going to start the show today about Equifax and how they screwed you over. So hang on to your handlebars and tighten your seatbelt, and we're going to be right back.
Educational, informative, controversial content to keep you free. This is the Radio for Freedom Network, featuring The Phil Garris Show, broadcasting from the city beautiful Orlando, Florida.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm glad you can make it to the Phil Garris Show today, and you're not listening to the Rush Mush Show. Today we're talking about Equifax. And on September 7th, 2017, the very day that Equifax declared it had a massive breach, and just days before top management sold shares of Equifax stock, the Republican-controlled Congress held a hearing to deliberate the Liability Harmonization Act. This act would limit damages related to class action and eliminate punitive damages to credit reporting agencies like Equifax. The Liability Harmonization Act was introduced by U.S. Representative Barry Loudermilk, Republican of Georgia, who also has taken donations from Equifax. Equifax has contributed to many politicians, mostly Republicans. In 2016, according to OpenSecrets.org, the House received $500,000, in which Republicans received $54,500, and the Democrats received $9,000. No doubt such donations was intended to help pass legislation that would help protect Equifax from class action lawsuits and possibly criminal behavior like inside trading of Equifax stock. 3 senior Equifax executives dumped shares worth almost $2 million. John Gamble sold almost $1 million worth of stock. Joseph Logran sold about $500,000 worth of stock. And Rodolfo Plotter sold $250,000 worth of stocks. And just days before Equifax declared it had a massive data breach on July 29th. Regulatory filings with the SEC showed that on August 1st, Gamble and Logran sold their shares. Plotter sold his stock shares on August 7th. On September 7th, 2017, Equifax declared a massive data breach. This would have given time for the stock trades to go through, and the three Equifax executives would have time to reinvest or shelter the money. Shares were selling for about $145 each, and after the breach was disclosed, shares dropped to $121.82. The three Equifax executives were able to net an additional $300,000 split between the three of them by dumping their stock before the news hit the street. Equifax claims the three had no knowledge that an intrusion had occurred at the time. The three executives that sold their stocks are small fish compared to the big cheese CEO Richard Smith. Smith, according to Forbes, is set to collect $72 million just this year. Not bad for a man that screwed half Americans and may have possibly trashed their credit and personal information. After the breach, Smith and Equifax still tried to screw Americans by charging for credit freezes and continue to profit from the misery of Americans. Here's what Brian Schatz had to say, U.S. Senator from the great state of Hawaii.
Are we your customers? Are people the people whose data was breached? Are we your customers, or the lenders your customers? How do you see that?
Well, we have customers as consumers, a small part of our business consumers. Most of the customers that I have will be institutions that have consumers as customers.
Okay, because it seems to me that there's actually a line on this, on that side of the dais, which is to say, not to excuse what happened with Yahoo, but it is different. The incentives are different between the credit reporting agencies, who have essentially zero financial incentive to get it right. You guys get informed by the Department of Homeland Security that there's a vulnerability. You get provided the patch. You don't download the patch. Your scanner doesn't work. Executives cash out their stock. You then start charging people to lock their credit or freeze their credit. You then start to promote through LifeLock. You have commercials with LifeLock saying, "Hey, there's been a breach. You might want to use this product." LifeLock subcontracts to Equifax. You guys continue to be profitable. On the other side, for Verizon, for Yahoo, for Google, for other companies, if you screw up with your customers, there is a customer relationship that is frayed. But in the case of the credit reporting agencies, there is no volition on the side of the customers. And that's the foundational problem here, which is that there's no incentive on your side to do anything other than to charge us to solve the problem that you caused. There is no incentive on your side to spend the money that it would take to transform the company to actually treat us like customers, because your customers are lenders. Your customers are not the people who got harmed through the breach. Mr. Barros, do you want to respond to that?
I think that the biggest incentive that we have is the stewardship that we have, the obligation that we have with the consumer to keep their data accurate and safe.
Right, but that's not a fiduciary. I mean, you have an earnings call, I think, tomorrow or shortly, and you're going to report presumably that everything's fine or that things are starting to pick up, or maybe even, I don't know, maybe even that you made more profit than usual in the wake of this problem. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention, because people back home, and I don't mean just back home where I live, but back home where all of us live, cannot understand how the CEO of Equifax and the CEO of Yahoo walked away with $90 million and $27 million and possibly $250 million in stocks. This is unfathomable to the average person. And I understand, Mr. Smith, you and I had an exchange in the banking committee where you said this was in the proxy, it's set by the board, it's not under my control. I understand all of that. What I'm saying is regular people don't understand that, and they shouldn't understand how you harm consumers and then walk away with the amount of money that a small city or county uses for their annual operating budget. It's not fair, and it's why this dais has an obligation to make a law and not just drag you back and forth and wave our fingers at you. Thank you.
I would like to thank C-SPAN for that recording of the senator questioning the current CEO of Equifax, Mr. Barrows. You may be asking yourself at this point, my God, what can I do? There's a few things you can do. You can ask for a credit freeze from the 3 major credit bureaus. As of now, I don't think Equifax is charging, but the other 2 are, Experian and TransUnion. Another thing I would do is do what I did. I called my bank and I asked my bank if they were reporting to Equifax, and they said they were. I asked them to stop reporting to Equifax. They told me they couldn't do that, so I sent a letter to the president of the bank demanding that he stops reporting to Equifax, or I would close my account and go to another bank. We need to put Equifax out of business, and I'll tell you why. I don't say this lightly because I'm a capitalistic person at heart. I run a business. I've been self-employed the majority of my life. But what Equifax has done and how they tried to profit after this breach makes me sick. No decent business would do this. Equifax has proven they can't be trusted. Equifax was trying to claim that they were victims. They were victims of theft. But the real victim is the American people. And the theft of their data, Social Security numbers, driver's license number, and personal data that was stolen by Equifax and then not safeguarded, and now is exposed all over the web, and it's out there and it won't come back. The damage is permanent and the damage is done. Call your bank and tell them you will not bank with them if they report to Equifax. In fact, I might go as far as say, if you report to any credit reporting agency that steals my data and my history and my information, I will not do business with you. And I guarantee it will stop, because banks want your accounts and they want your money. And if they're going to lose your business, they're going to stop reporting over it. I guarantee it. Once again, thanks for listening to the Phil Garris Show, and have a good day.